And we are live. Good evening, everyone. How are we today? So, as usual, please, whoever is joining us today, introduce yourself in the comments and let us know where you're joining us tonight. Because I am in Melbourne, so I'm still in isolation number 4. Hopefully, it will be lifted in on Monday. So we all, I guess, here in Melbourne, really looking forward for some changes from next Monday. So make sure, please introduce yourself in the comments and let us know where you're watching us today from. So I always say the same thing, but yes, isolation is not that fun, but it's a great time to learn something new and actually adapt your business for online work. So that's why, at the moment, a lot of conversations happening online. And usually LinkedIn, it's a great place to stay meaningfully connected to your professional community. But all this, it's not that easy to decide what you want to write or post on LinkedIn. And sometimes it might feel disencouraging that, you're writing your post on LinkedIn and don't get any engagement. So tonight, Nick is going to share with us some tricks and tips that he used when it comes to writing engaging LinkedIn posts. And we also talk about the different types of, written posts that you can utilize on LinkedIn to stay meaningfully connected to your audience. So, because, we know that LinkedIn these days is the main platform where you can stay connected with your professional community, especially, now during isolation. So it's pretty relevant topic today, yeah? So LinkedIn getting more and more popular. So that's why make sure you tag connections that need to listen to our stream tonight, and also share with those who need this information. Before I'll pass it on to Nick to introduce himself, I just quickly gonna remind you that we're going live as usual on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And I always encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel because it's the easiest way to watch replays. And also you can get notifications on, and you get notified every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Melbourne time, and I'm going live. We have different people from my, different experts from my network, and we're talking about all the things related to online communication, LinkedIn, personal branding, and content, where you're watching us from. So make sure you write your questions. We're trying to reply to all the questions. If we have time, stay on the topic. Yeah, don't ask us questions about Instagram. Yes, so we're talking about LinkedIn today. And at the end, we, as usual, have a little giveaway. So if you're staying active during all the live stream, you might get a little surprise at the end. So, okay, we have a few people here. Thank you, guys. Imtiaz is here. David's here. I'm tired of zero engagement. You should definitely stay with us, David. Sean here, and Judy's here as well. So thank you guys for joining us. So make sure everyone, again, please make sure introduce yourself in the comments, and I'll pass it over to Nick. Oh, what's happened to Nick? Here you go, guys. That's a great example of failing technology. I just wanted to pass it over to Nick, and Nick disappeared. So hopefully Nick will will connect back to us in a second. But before before it's happening, I'm just going to talk about what I know about writing posts on LinkedIn. And hopefully by that time, Nick fixed his internet connection. So look, the thing is, even if I'm a big fan of the video on LinkedIn, and I do believe that video creates a lot of trust and engagement, we can't disregard written posts. And I actually want to ask you a question, guys. What do you usually post on LinkedIn? Do you usually post just written posts, or do you post some pictures, or maybe you post some videos? Share with me, let me know. Because, yeah, video is great when we're trying to build the high engagement and the high trust. But even when you're posting video, you still need to make sure that the written bit of your post is quite engaging. And this written bit of the post is can have like a different purpose. Sometimes, you know, you really want people to watch the video. So, and in this written post, you encourage people to watch a video, or maybe in this written post, you wanna encourage people to comment. Yeah. So even if you're just posting video on LinkedIn, you need to make sure it's supported, but really precise and catchy written description as well. And I did notice actually, if before LinkedIn had been prioritizing video quite a lot, so at the moment it's kind of the same. So at the moment it's LinkedIn, like the written post performing really well on LinkedIn as well. So guys, what do you usually post on LinkedIn? And also another question, what do you usually read on LinkedIn? Or, you know, maybe you don't read on LinkedIn, maybe you usually just scroll through the pictures. So let us know, what do you usually read, or what do you usually post? And here we go, Nick's back. Yes. Okay. I'm glad we fixed the problem. Nick, I'm just now passing it over to you to introduce yourself. Here we go.
Hi everyone, my name is Nick Bendel. I have a very bad internet connection, it appears, apologies for that. I'm the owner of Hunter and Scribe. Hunter and Scribe is a content marketing and copywriting agency, and I have a background as a professional journalist.
That's short and brief.
Well, one of the things you learn as a journalist, Jana, is to be concise.
Look, you're not the first person who's telling me that. You know, sometimes when I ask someone to review like my writing, I often get some feedback. You know, if this word doesn't need to be there, it doesn't need to be there.
When I and my team, when we edit people's writing, Jana, the first thing we do is remove 25% of the words.
Makes sense. Do you? But it's actually a good point here, because sometimes people feel like there's more words they would put in as more, I don't know, professional it looks sometimes. You know, you put all these fancy words in between and connection words and so on. You know, firstly, secondly, overall, and things like this. Would you keep those ones?
No. I can relate to what you're saying, Jana, because I used to be one of those people who loved using those words too. But when I became a journalist, I realized that so many of those words they're useless filler words, and they're distracting people's attention. And when you're making an argument, the longer it takes to make your argument, the less persuasive your argument becomes.
Agree. And we actually perceive differently as well, you know, than someone just going on and going on about something. Sometimes it feels like, oh, like, just get to the point. Like, you probably no idea what you're talking about, that you just keep going on about it.
Exactly. That's why the faster you can deliver the information, the more persuasive it will be, and the easier it will be for people to take in that information.
100%. So let's think about particularly about engaging LinkedIn posts. And I know you have a few points here. So what actually our audience want when it comes to creating content for LinkedIn?
This might seem obvious, Jana, that you want to create content that your audience considers interesting, relevant, and helpful, but most of the content out there is not interesting, relevant, and helpful. People write for themselves, but you are not the one reading your post. The people you're trying to impress are the ones reading your post. These might be your customers, they might be your referral partners. So you need to write content that they consider to be interesting, relevant, and helpful. And the more interesting and relevant and helpful you make your LinkedIn posts, the more people who are going to read those posts and like those posts and comment on those posts and share those posts.
And look, I'm totally agree that you just mentioned that people sometimes write for themselves. And I do believe that I started with social media, I was the same. You write what you want to write. You don't even think like, do the people want to read it or not? You think like, that's what I want to write about today, or that's what I want to post. That's a picture that I want to post today. And don't really actually thinking about what people is at the moment consuming and what your audience is consuming on social media at the moment.
I have made that mistake myself many, many times, Yana, and it's such an easy mistake for us to make because as humans, we're very self-absorbed. We always think of ourselves and we assume that what's in our head is in everyone else's head, but that's never the case. So we have to try to get out of our head, and we need to try to see things from the perspective of our readers, and our readers will generally be our customers and our referral partners. And we need to try to create LinkedIn posts that our customers and our referral partners will find interesting, relevant, and helpful.
And I've just asked our audience also what actually they read on LinkedIn, because I found it is really good exercise to ask actually others what content they prefer, because sometimes we keep boiling in our own mind and thinking, oh, my customers or like my connection would like this, or my connection would like to read about that. But what about just simply asking them what they actually are reading about and what they prefer to read? And it's a really good starting point to decide what you want to post.
It's a perfect starting point, Yana, because instead of trying to guess what other people are interested in, they can just tell you.
And I don't know why. Sorry that your name is not showing in the stream yet. So saying that they read interesting posts but have not regularly posted content and videos, even less. So that's why I'm here, to learn about how to do and what to do and what resonates with others. So really good point. And I think Nick actually wanted to ask you this question as well. Why you don't post more on LinkedIn, guys? Because we all know that like we need to post on LinkedIn, we need to create this engagement, but why don't we post more? And I guess that comes to that's what we just talked about. We actually don't think about what actually resonates with our audience. So Nick, do you want to give us a few ideas? What would be the best LinkedIn post to create some engagement?
Okay, so again, we need to write content that our audience considers interesting, relevant, and helpful. So the first thing I want people to do is, well, in fact, not so much doing something, but to stop doing something. People need to stop publishing what I call corporate propaganda. Corporate propaganda is when you say things like, we have a world-class business and we offer game-changing products and best-of-breed customer service, and no one cares. No one cares. You probably care, but the people reading your content do not care. So don't publish corporate propaganda, because your audience does not find corporate propaganda interesting, relevant, and helpful. And by the way, the people who publish corporate propaganda, they don't find other people's corporate propaganda interesting, and yet for some reason they believe people will find their corporate propaganda interesting. It's not interesting. So my first tip to everyone is, please stop publishing corporate propaganda. Do you ever see corporate propaganda on LinkedIn, Yana?
Yes, definitely. And it's usually start with, we're so excited to announce. And that's probably the sentence that I would want to, delete from LinkedIn. This we're so excited to announce. But what is it? What's in there for me? I know you're excited to announce, but am I supposed to be excited with you?
So that's actually a perfect example, because we've all made that mistake. I'm sure I've made that mistake many times, where I say, I'm excited about this, I'm excited about that, because for me it's exciting and in my head it's exciting, but the people reading it, they're not inside my head, and I need to see things from their point of view. I need to publish content, not that I find interesting, relevant, and helpful, but that they find interesting, relevant, and helpful.
And I guess you have a few suggestions here for our audience here. Do you want to take us through these types of content?
Yeah, so your customers have problems and they want those problems to be solved because those problems are annoying them and causing them pain. So when you're doing LinkedIn posts, if you can provide answers to your customers' problems, they are really going to enjoy reading that content and they're going to see you as a trusted authority figure. The more answers you can provide, the more interesting and engaging people will find your content. The second thing you can do is you can answer people's questions. So your customers, no matter what industry you're in, they are confused because they don't know all the things that you know and they have so many questions and they just want someone to answer those questions in a way that is simple for them to understand. And again, the more questions you answer in your LinkedIn posts, the more of a trusted authority figure you're going to become. So that leads on then to the third thing you can do. You can also bust myths. So your customers, they not only have problems they want to solve, they not only have questions they need to answer, they also have false beliefs. No matter what industry you're in, your customers would have false beliefs about issues in your industry. And if you can be the one, Jana, who educates them about those false beliefs, who busts those myths and makes them see the things that are actually different, again, they're going to consider that to be interesting, relevant, and helpful information, and they're really going to enjoy consuming that sort of content. The fourth thing you can do when you're posting on LinkedIn is you can share news. This should be news relevant to your industry, and it should be news not that you consider interesting, relevant, and helpful, but that your audience considers interesting, relevant, and helpful. If you're the one providing them with that sort of news, they're going to see you as someone who's really knowledgeable and really passionate about your industry, and they're going to feel like you're bringing value to their lives. And that leads on to the fifth and final thing you can do, Jana, if you want to create interesting, relevant, helpful content. You can analyze trends. Again, you as the industry expert, you have a really deep understanding of your industry, but your customers don't have that understanding and they want someone to explain what's happening now in the present, and they also want someone to explain what's going to happen off into the future. And if you can be the one who provides that analysis, that intelligent, thoughtful analysis, they're going to see that as interesting, relevant, and helpful content.
Perfect example, Nick. I think we can give a few examples of each. How would that sound? So solve the problems. I guess solve the problems, answer questions. They quite similar one. I always, advise people when they starting with the video as well. But it's a similar thing. We're doing video, we're doing the written content. Really start with the videos that are answering frequently asked questions. If the small business already have frequently asked questions on their website, here's your posts. You don't even need to, reinvent the wheel. You can just, repurpose your frequently asked questions into your LinkedIn posts.
That's a brilliant idea because no matter what business you're in, you keep getting asked the same questions day after day after day. And every one of those questions could be a written post on LinkedIn, or it could be a video.
And also, I'm repeating it quite often that things that seems common sense for us often can be an eye opener for our audience. Because if you expert in particular industry and you're knowing it so in depth, something that just literally feels like common sense could be something that your audience will find really interesting and eye-opening. Do you have any example like that?
Okay, that's a really important point, Jana. I'm glad you mentioned that because one of the reasons people are reluctant to post on LinkedIn is they think, oh, it's so obvious and people are going to think it's so stupid that I'm writing this content. But as you pointed out, when you work in an industry, you know more about that industry than 99% of people in the world. So things that are obvious to you are not obvious to others. And to give you an example, Jana, I publish content on LinkedIn every single day, and I always provide advice for the people consuming my content, and I give them marketing tips, which seem so obvious to me because I work in marketing. I'm a marketing expert, but I always get comments from people on those posts saying, "Oh my God, Nick, I didn't realize you could do this," or "I never knew that." And I think, but it's so obvious. But of course it's obvious to me because I work in this field. But if you're a customer, you don't work in that field. And so things that are obvious to the business are not obvious to the customer.
And I guess the point here as well, then the good point that people think like, oh, it's so obvious. Again, it depends on your audience, because if, for example, you would be creating content for another marketing agencies, maybe for them it would be obvious. But another marketing agency is not your target market. Your target market is the small businesses, and for them, it's an eye-opener. So absolutely the same content could be boring for one audience and could be really interesting for another audience.
When I communicate with my bookkeeper, Yana, a few months ago, I sent an email to my bookkeeper and I said, "Can you please write your emails as if you were speaking to a 5-year-old? And I promise I won't be offended," because he was writing emails as if he was writing to other bookkeepers. But I'm not a bookkeeper, so I don't know all the things that he knows. So I told him, just please dumb it down for me. Please make it simple. And he started doing that, and now his communications are wonderful because he didn't realize that all his knowledge is not common knowledge. The things he knows, I don't know. And this also applies to the content we post on LinkedIn. When we work in an industry, we're an expert in that industry. We know more than 99% of people, but our audience don't know what we know.
100%. And I also want to mention the busting myths posting. So do you have any good example on the busting myth?
Okay, so my business, we work with a lot of property and finance clients, and we work with quite a few buyers agents. These are businesses that buy investment properties on behalf of property investors. And one of the myths that some property investors have is that you have to buy in a capital city, that it's not possible to find a good long-term investment property in a regional area. So it can be, so writing a post or writing a LinkedIn post, for example, about how you can find high quality investment properties in a regional area, this is a good example of busting a myth. And if you write the post in such a way that it explains the situation clearly and explains why this belief that people have that you have to buy in a city, why that's actually a false belief, you're going to leave your audience feeling like you've presented them with really valuable information, and they're going to see you as a trusted authority figure.
I guess it's can go even further. I know that sometimes people a bit scared of posting like ambiguous content, that can polarize, maybe polarize opinions and polarize the audience. But to be honest, it's one of the best content you can post, because usually you get so many comments, as long as you prepare to reply to those comments. Because if you like saying unpopular opinion, but you have your, even if it's unpopular, but you have your value system, and you know that that's what you believe in, and you're happy to reply to comments and open to critics, usually those posts go get a lot of engagement.
The aim of marketing, Yana, is to stand out, and you don't stand out if you say the same thing that everyone else says. If you say something different, you're going to immediately stand out. It's important not to be controversial for the sake of being controversial. You have to actually believe the things you're saying. But if you do believe the things you're saying, then it's fantastic to say something different from everyone else.
100%. It just can be doubting sometimes, I think, for some people. There is some topics that, on the border, you post something and you know that it will be some polarized opinion here and there. But I think it's a great way to get engagement. If, as you said, we're not doing it purposely to to create attention. We actually do believe that we're busting some myth, and we do believe that we have some facts that can support our opinion as well.
Yes, and you made an important point a minute ago, Jana, which is you have to be prepared for a negative reaction from some people. If you say something different, you have to be willing to accept that you're going to upset some people, but I think you're going to upset this many people, but you're going to attract this many people. So I think being different overall has a net positive result.
Here we go, Carlos saying, I think there are too many positive subjective information on LinkedIn. I find it hard to believe or not relevant to me. Good point, I think, because it's funny how, a lot of people just expressing their opinions, and suddenly when the opinion got spread out, we suddenly decide to think that's a fact, but we never actually find the actual source of the information, and suddenly everyone thinks that's a fact, but it was just spread out someone's opinion. How we can avoid getting in this trap?
Carlos has made a really important point, Jana. Carlos has said that if someone writes information that doesn't seem credible, Carlos doesn't find those posts relevant. And I think a lot of people would agree with Carlos. So I think when you do a post, there's nothing wrong with offering an opinion or doing analysis, but you need to clearly explain how you reached that conclusion, and you need to provide facts to back up your opinion or back up your analysis. If you do that, I think people will see those opinions and that analysis as credible, and therefore they will see it as relevant. But if you don't do that, if people just think you're making it up, then I think Carlos is right. I think people won't find that relevant.
I actually give you a recent example that happened with me. At the moment in Melbourne, it's a really popular belief that suicides doubled. Yep, everyone's saying mental health, like obviously there's a lot of mental health things going on, and like suicide double, like it's really bad. But if you actually go to the medical website and look to statistics, it was less suicides in August 2019 than in August 2020.
Okay, that's really interesting. So I think in that situation, if you're going to say suicides have doubled, you should present the old number and the new number to prove that there has indeed been a doubling. But if you're not presenting the old number and the new number, I think Carlos and other people would think, well, this person is just making it up, and therefore this post is not credible and it's not relevant to me.
So, okay, what's our conclusion? Relevant, interesting, and helpful.
Yes.
And solving the people problem. So, but I know that you have a really good point here as well. So even if we need to concentrate on the written communication when we are doing LinkedIn posts, there is another extra thing we can do, and that is
we have to choose an image that grabs people's attention, like this wonderful image that you chose, Jana, because the first thing we all look at with a LinkedIn post is the image. And the more enticing the image is, the more people who are going to look at your LinkedIn post. It is very important to have wonderful written content, but make sure that you have a great image to go with that written content, because unfortunately people do judge a book by the cover. And if you don't have an attractive, interesting, enticing cover, unfortunately people aren't going to open that book and they won't look at the content inside.
I love this image. I think Rodney's saying, I'm grumpy. It's a little grumpy. It's a little grumpy bird. I must say, if you can find the image that can bring some metaphoric example, that even enhance your post even more. So like, if you, one of the example I did, I think it was, I had a video with me holding snakes, but I was talking in my post about different levels of motivation, different level of stimulation, how much stimulation can be enough for someone, and how people work under pressure. It's nothing about snakes, but I think like it's quite important if you can find those images that you can bring these metaphoric examples that could be even more powerful. What do you think?
This is a really interesting point, Yana, because ideally, you need the image to immediately communicate what your post is about to the reader. So it's not enough just to have an interesting image. You also need an image that is going to communicate the right message to your audience. If you have an interesting image, but then people start reading your post and they don't believe that the words are relevant to the image, they're going to feel cheated and they're going to stop reading. A bit of headline is deceptive and you just close the article in disgust. So I think your point is correct, Yana. You need to choose an enticing image. It needs to be an image that communicates what the post is about. And if you don't do that, people either won't read the post or they will start reading the post and they'll feel like they were cheated and they'll stop reading it.
Really good point, because like, you really get me about, then you're clicking on these ads and you think you're going to see something exciting and it's just completely boring, completely boring, like few paragraphs about like nothing. And I guess would work with the same way on LinkedIn. You catch attention, you wanna read about it, and then you just feel disappointed, and you probably wouldn't read the next post from this person if you experience something like this.
That sort of behavior damages your credibility, and that means fewer people are going to read your future posts.
Carlos is actually asking, who reads LinkedIn posts? Headhunters, job hunters. Yes, that corporate propaganda is the worst content. Look, I do read LinkedIn posts. I don't know if the job hunters actually read LinkedIn posts. What do you think, Nick? Who reads LinkedIn posts? Guys, do you read the LinkedIn posts? I do.
I read LinkedIn posts that are interesting, relevant, and helpful for me. And the ones that aren't, I don't read them.
But that probably will be harder if we brought this topic here. If you need to create content for headhunters, how you can make the content for headhunters relevant, interesting, and helpful if you're just looking for a job?
So if I was doing writing on behalf of a headhunter, I need to think, who do I want to read my content? And the people who I want to read, in fact, there are two types of people I want to read my content. First, I want my potential clients to read my content. And second, I want my potential candidates to read my content. So the content that I'm writing for my clients, I would write content that explains how important it is for them to find high-value employees and how much money they waste if they hire the wrong people or if they have a bad hiring process. I would educate them on the benefits of getting their hiring right and using a headhunting agency. And the content, Yana, that I'm writing for my candidates, I would explain the benefits to them of choosing an employer that's going to pay them what they're worth and that's going to help them advance their career and learn new skills. So I definitely think every industry has the potential to write interesting, relevant, and helpful content. You just need to get out of your head and you need to get into the head of your readers and you need to think about what they would consider interesting, relevant, and helpful.
And I guess we're getting to another point. We already started mentioning about the headlines before, and that sometimes headline could be really catchy, but the content can be disappointed. But I just saw this picture yesterday. I decided to use it. But how we can actually write headline that evokes curiosity? Do you have any recommendations?
Well, first, let me quickly explain why you want to evoke curiosity. The reason you want to evoke curiosity is you need to give people a reason to read your content. And if you tell them that there's some sort of mystery that they will solve by reading your content, or there's some sort of problem they'll be able to solve, or there's some sort of question they'll be able to answer, you're giving them an incentive to consume your content. So now moving on to your question, Yana, how can you evoke that curiosity? Well, you can evoke that curiosity by doing what I call opening a loop. Opening a loop is where you create some sort of doubt or situation in someone's mind, and the only way they can close that loop, the only way they can resolve the situation is by reading your content. So, for example, you might say something like, "You'll never believe what Scott Morrison said this morning." Now, there's immediately an open loop. What did he say? I want to know. So now I'm going to click on the article. And if I read the article and I discover that he did indeed say something controversial or amazing, then that's a great headline. If I discover that he said something just boring and mundane, that's an example of clickbait, and I'm not going to trust that writer ever again. So in your headlines, you want to create some sort of mystery that needs to be solved. Another good way of doing that is using numbers or being specific. For example, you might say something like the 5 top ways to do this, or do you know how to lose 18 kilos in 3 months? If you can put some sort of specific number in the headline, that suggests that there's some really important information in the article, and that gives people a reason to click and read.
That's a really good point. I haven't actually thought about it, but yeah, that's right. That you feel like it's facts there. Then as soon as the numbers involved, you feel.
And especially a number that isn't a round number, but a specific number. So to go back to this weight loss example, instead of saying 20 kilos, 18 would be better than 20, and 17.7 would be better than 18, because the more specific the number is, the more scientific it seems and the more credible it seems.
Interesting. I definitely can say I more like often start my LinkedIn post with the question. And I guess the reason for it, because obviously then you post on LinkedIn, it gives you few lines, and then people need to click see more. And I usually try to put the question as the first sentence so that people encourage to click see more. Because if I'll go straight to the point, sometimes that people already know what's going on and maybe not click and read the rest of the paragraph. Do you use similar strategy when you're creating your posts?
Questions can be a good way to entice people into an article if someone wants to know what the answer to the question is, or if it makes people think in a way that they weren't thinking before. So yes, questions can be an effective way to draw people in.
And also, like, I heard about using some powerful words, if you're using words that, I don't know, mysterious, powerful, then they can enhance your headline. Would you agree with this?
The best kind of marketing, Yana, is marketing that stirs our emotions and appeals to our heart, not our head, but our heart. Humans, we think we're rational, but we're not rational. We're actually emotional, and we think with our hearts rather than our heads. So if you can use words that stir emotions, and generally these words are verbs, then yes, those sorts of words can do a good job of enticing people's emotions and getting them to click and to read your content.
So verbs actually consider more powerful than adjectives, for example. Yeah.
Generally, yes. Often people see adjectives as hype, but a good verb, and for those who don't know, a verb is an action word. For example, run, that's a verb, or walk is a verb, or hit is a verb. If you use a good verb, that can stir people's emotions. Adjectives can also work well, but sometimes people don't think adjectives are as credible as verbs.
Makes sense. Can you give me an example of like 2 powerful verbs?
Okay. So maybe instead of learn, you might say something like improve or educate, something that maybe suggests something better in the future. It all depends on context, but just off the top of my head, love is a really powerful verb because we all want to love and be loved. Or win is a powerful verb because we're imagining a better future. Succeed, triumph, these are powerful verbs again because we're imagining a better future. Crush, destroy, these are powerful verbs because we're imagining that we're more powerful than we are because we're crushing or destroying whatever it is that we don't like. These sorts of verbs can be powerful because they stir our emotions and they make us feel like we're better off than before we read those verbs.
Good point, because I think like often I want to put some adjective to fluff it up. But as we start our conversation, you mentioned that the first thing you do when you're editing something, you take off 25% of the words. So probably not a good idea to stuff the post with some adjective just to fluff it up.
Adjectives can work well. So in the headline you've chosen for today, how to write engaging LinkedIn posts, you'll put a really good adjective, engaging. If you just write how to write LinkedIn posts, that is not as powerful as how to write engaging LinkedIn posts. So adjectives can definitely work well. What would have been bad though is if you had the headline of how to write amazing, engaging, extraordinary LinkedIn posts. That's just too many adjectives. But one adjective like you've used and a credible adjective put in the right place can actually have a nice impact.
And you're also mentioning about one more thing. So we talk about the words that we should use, but there is some words that we probably shouldn't use.
Yes. I beg everyone, please use simple language. Pretend as though you're writing for a 10-year-old. For example, in the chat that we've been having, Jana, the two of us have used simple language, and that's made it easy for people to listen to our discussion, and it's made it enjoyable. But if we were talking as though we had a thesaurus in front of us, it would be so annoying and frustrating for people, and they wouldn't be able to take in the information, and they wouldn't be interested, and they would stop watching. So I ask everyone, use really simple language that a 10-year-old could understand. Don't use jargon and acronyms. Even though you, in your profession, whatever it is, even though you would use jargon and acronyms every day, and even though other people within your profession would understand what those fancy words mean, your readers, your customers, they don't know what those terms mean, so don't use them. An example I like to use, when I go to the mechanic, I know nothing about cars, and when the mechanic starts using all these fancy terms, I don't have any idea what he's talking about. I mentioned before that I asked my bookkeeper to write emails to me as though he was writing to a 5-year-old because he was using this terminology that I didn't understand. When you're writing LinkedIn posts, it's so important to pretend that you're speaking to a child. Use simple words, use short sentences, avoid jargon, avoid acronyms. You're not going to sound stupid. People think if you use simple words, you sound stupid, but the opposite is the case. If you use simple words, people think you're a good communicator, and people think good communicators are intelligent.
100%. And we do actually judge people's intelligence based on communication skills a lot. You know, you might be like great at maths and great scientist, but if you can't communicate, the first impression will be, oh, like this guy a bit strange, you know, this guy's, yeah.
Let me share something interesting with you, Yana. When I'm speaking to potential clients, I often have potential clients tell me how pleased and impressed they are that I'm able to explain things to them in really clear, simple terms. And they often compare me with rivals who they've already spoken to, and they say, if when I was speaking to these other people, I couldn't understand what they were talking about, and it was so frustrating. And the fact that I'm explaining things to them in simple terms and simple language, they don't think that that makes me sound stupid. They think that makes me sound smart. And the fact that these other people were using acronyms and jargon and complicated words, they don't think that those other people were smart. They think they were stupid.
Because they just couldn't explain what they're trying to explain.
Yes, and it's so frustrating. So I implore everyone, when you write LinkedIn posts, please make them so simple that a child could understand them.
And MTS have a great quote for us. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler.
That is a great quote.
And I think on this quote, it's a time to wrap it out our conversation. We already passed the 45 minutes mark. So guys, whoever is with us on the stream, as we mentioned, there is a little giveaway at the end of the stream. Nick is actually gonna review or help you with one of your posts. So we can do it live right now. So whoever's listening to us, you can actually send us a link to your post, and we go to your LinkedIn post, and right now Nick will give us some ideas how we can improve and change the wording on this post. So if you're still listening, please send us a link. But if you're still hesitating, you can obviously contact me after. But it would be great if someone will be brave and send us a link to some posts so we can review it live right now. So while you guys doing it, hopefully someone doing it and sending the links, I'll just give you a brief review of what's gonna happen in the next few weeks, because as you know, I'm going live every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. and next week we're going to talk of the power of structure for content creation with Dan Lenny. Dan Lenny is been working in a lot of big video production around the world, and we're going to talk about how important is actually have a structure even when you want to be creative. After that, you don't want to miss this one, because I will be interviewing myself on on the 7th of October. I will be Yana Martin interviewing Yana Martins, and we will be talking about how to effectively use video on LinkedIn. So that's 7th of October. And after that, we're going to go a bit broader and talk about how to grow your small business on social media in 2020 with Steve. So make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to get notification on YouTube. And I was hoping that someone will be brave and send us a link to the LinkedIn post, but everyone's silent. It's it is a bit of a pressure, doing the review live. So guys, we'll wait for 30 seconds if someone's still gonna send us a link. But if you don't want to do it live, you can actually we can pick one the most active person who, Nick, you can review the post offline.
Well, so Yana, I would say
yeah,
everyone watching this, if they send me a private message on LinkedIn, I will review one post for every single person who contacts me.
Sounds good, guys. So you just need to find a Nick Bendel on LinkedIn. You can see Nick's nicknames under his photo. So if you just connect with Nick, and if you mention that you've been watching this post, then here we go. Matthew's saying, I will send the link in a few minutes. Okay, we'll wait for a few minutes. Maybe we'll wait for a few minutes. We'll talk about. We'll just go back to this one. Let's summarize. Nick, let's summarize. Then you want to do engaging LinkedIn posts. What would be your 3 tips?
3 tips. First, you need to write content that your audience considers interesting, relevant, and helpful. Second, you need to write the content in a way that even a child would understand. And third, you need to avoid corporate propaganda. No one cares about your game-changing products and your world-class customer service. No more corporate propaganda, people.
Stand by. Matthew's still with us on standby. So, talking about corporate propaganda, can you give me like on top example? How would you rephrase if I'm writing a post that we excited to announce someone joining our team? Yeah, for example. Yeah, so quite common. Like our company excited to announce that Nick is joining our team this week. How would you rephrase it that it doesn't sound as plain?
If a company writes, we're excited that Nick is joining the team, the reason that's bad is because that's focused on the company. The post should be written in such a way that it focuses on the customer. So you might say, good news, customers, we're now better at helping you with your writing because Nick has joined our team. So you need to put the spotlight on the customers, not on the business. You need to always explain to them what's in it for them.
I like this. Like, yeah, really simple. And obviously you've been doing it for years, but it's not something that comes to your mind straight away, because the first thing comes to your mind, we're excited.
I fall into this trap too. It's really hard to change our psychology, Jana, because as humans, we're selfish creatures. That's how we survive, by thinking about our own needs. So it's really hard to change our psychology. And even though I teach people to stop thinking about themselves, I often fall into the trap myself. So I know how easy it is to fall into this trap of just thinking of yourself rather than your customers.
Here we go. We got the link. Oh, we got the link from David, actually, not from Matthew. Oh no, how I can open the link here? No, it's not letting me open it from here. Can I copy it from here? David, can you please send it as a direct message on my LinkedIn? Oh, here we go. So while I'm sorting out the link, Imti is saying readability test tool to help see what level you're writing for. Have you tried this tool, Nick?
No, I've never tried it. That sounds like a really interesting tool. Thank you for sharing it.
Go. David, please send it as a DM. I can't open the link from here, unfortunately. It's not letting me highlight the link. I thought it would be such a great idea. Message to me, yes. I'll just go to David's profile. You're not in hurry, Nick? Is it dinner? Dinner's waiting?
Yeah, I might have dinner a bit after. But,
would be good to do one. Okay, so I'm on David's profile, but I'm not sure which post he wants us to review.
COVID-19 leadership, business leadership activity.
Leadership activities. Here we go. Got it here. Thank you. So look how efficient I am. Can you see this?
I can see this. Okay.
Yep, I'll just make it bigger.
Thank you very much. Okay.
So, still too small, yeah?
No, I can read this.
You can read
Okay.
this?
Yes, so just having a quick read of this, David and Jana, I would say the information is good. So what I like about it is that it's written in simple language, and I can't see any jargon or acronyms, so that's really good. One bit of advice I would give to David is to keep all the information, but just try to write it in fewer words, 25% less if possible. I think that probably, so for example, if we have a look at the first paragraph, you could get rid of that second sentence, love to know your thoughts and any other strategies you find work, because that is getting in the way of the bullet points, which are the useful information. And then if we look at each bullet point, I think each of them could be written more concisely so that you have all the same information, but just written in fewer words. One other bit of advice I would give to David is, could he have found, in fact, scroll down, Jana, is there an image with this? Because I can't see an image, but there may be an image. So one bit of advice for David is, see if you can come up with an image. Maybe you can steal Jana's angry bird, or come up with some sort of image that is enticing and that also communicates what your post is about.
Would you say this love to know your thoughts and our strategies, maybe then this sentence can be at the end of the post?
If I was going to include it, yes, I would include it at the end. But I actually wouldn't include it at all, because if people find a post engaging, they are going to respond to it. You don't need to tell them.
Interesting, because I often hear that it's important to put this call to action and tell people, oh, please comment with your thought, or please comment below, and it's encourage people to comment more than we don't actually do it. So you feel like it's unnecessary?
I think it's unnecessary if you're asking them to do something obvious, but if you're asking them to do something that might not have occurred to them, if you say, please tell me your top 3, whatever, this is something that may not have occurred to them. But if you're just asking them to do something that probably would have occurred to them anyway, if they like the post, then I think that's just a waste of words.
Yep. Okay. Yep. I'm with you. So Matthew sent us a post. Oh, the image looks really good. Here we go. Look at the image. So we have an image. We like it for Matthew. So can you read this?
Okay. Yes, I can read that.
I probably read it loud while you did. Yeah.
So two things I love about Matthew's post. First, the image that grabs our attention. Second, I like the fact that Matthew has expressed a really clear opinion. That's fantastic. Matthew is not sitting on the fence. The advice I'd give to Matthew, I think you could write the exact same or make the exact same points probably in 1/3 of the number of words.
Give us examples, Nick. I will be, putting pressure on you.
Okay.
Change some particular sentence for us.
So in the first paragraph, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head, you might say something like, it's odd people want an instant response. Everyone wants instant gratification. That might be the entire paragraph.
We haven't pasted.
And then looking at the second paragraph, you might say, people focus on getting famous on social media.
So get rid of what I really find interesting.
Yes. Now I'm just trying to think aloud. Okay, so you might, just reading that, it seems like the key point is, it seems everyone wants to be an influencer in this day and age. So I think maybe instead of 4 lines, you could have just 1 line.
I'm putting you under pressure, Nick, yeah? Making you, copyright on the spot. I'm really enjoying it because English is my second language. I can't write posts at all. Like I do, but I'm not enjoying writing at all. So that's why I'm really enjoying this process. Learning quite a lot myself. Okay, guys, we actually hit 1 hour. So we have a few more questions, but guys, yeah, we're going over an hour. We'll reply to Carla's comment when we're offline, because all the comments and obviously stays on the stream. Thank you so much, guys, for such active participation. Sorry, I'm just get distracted at Matthew saying about his feedback. Thank you guys for sending the links to your post to review. That was quite interactive. And obviously, if anyone else who is still listening to us want to send the links to Nick, feel free to do it. As we mentioned before, you can connect with Nick on LinkedIn. Just find him by his in my connection list, and I tag him in this stream as well. So I want to just finish our today's stream of this image again, just because I like it. Thank you so much, Nick. Last sentence from you.
Pretend you're writing for an audience of children.
Thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you next Wednesday.